Once upon a time, in the heart of Africa, there lived a young girl. Her name was Munu, and she was a high school girl. Munu was the daughter of a humble farmer. She attended the Palace School as part of a scholarship program aimed at providing opportunities for gifted children from less privileged backgrounds. All of Munu's classmates often teased her for her funny appearance. Her peers called her Miss Odd. She was nicknamed Dirty Schoolgirl and Dirty Queen. No one knew why she wore an oversized school skirt and shirt with so many stitches. Munu was the only one sitting on her desk alone because all her classmates jeered at her. They all laughed at her. They looked at her with disgust because she was just a ridiculous girl, dirty and stinking. But there was something unusual about her. Even though she stank of sweat with an unpleasant body odor, she was the most intelligent girl in her class. It was not long when a prince by the name of Mike enrolled in the same school. Mike was the only son of the king, and he noticed her quickly because she looked quite different from all the other girls. And as fate would have it, Prince Mike's path crossed with Munu one fateful day when he witnessed her being bullied by a group of students. As the prince approached the students, they all ran away, and Munu was left there standing with fear in her eyes as she saw the prince approach her. "Why do you dress like a dirty old woman of my granny's day?" the prince asked Munu. But she did not reply and walked away from the prince. Munu was just a primitive girl from a primitive background, but the shocking thing is that she always came first in her class. The prince's best friend replied. It was true that Munu was a dirty schoolgirl, and all the boys referred to her as a ridiculous girl. Despite all that, she kept her head up and still came first in her class. All the girls who wanted the prince to woo them wondered why, after all the beautiful and well-dressed seductive girls with tight-fitting school attires never caught the sight of the charming prince. They knew from the prince's best friend that there was only one girl who caught the prince's attention, and the girl was Munu, the ridiculous girl. When they asked him why, he said it was her tattered outfit and the fact that she took first in her class. Though the prince had no interest in her, it was her oddness that he was interested in. So, the jealous schoolgirls decided to find out why a dirty schoolgirl like Munu always came first in her class, despite the fact that she had no textbook and found it hard to pay her school fees. They decided to find the secret of the dirty schoolgirl. One of the girls by the name of Chisha opted to find her secret. Chisha approached Munu and pretended to be her friend. Chisha went to Munu, twisting her nose. It was an illusion created that she was stinking, and everyone twisted their noses when they were beside her. They made mockery out of her and as a laughing stock. But when she asked Munu, "What is the secret of your wonderful performance in academics?" "Chisha," Munu replied, "the only secret is I use what others have and don't make use of. When I have the opportunity, I do make good of it." Chisha misunderstood her and thought she used black magic, so she wondered, "So that's the magic of your success?" "Yes, that is my magic," replied Munu. Like a joke, Chisha visited a witch to find out the secrets of Munu's high intelligence quotient. The witch doctor didn't find any clue of her magic and lied that the secret was on her dirty garments. "As you said, the magic is on her dirty garments. If you want to make her fail her exams, all you need to do is give her a thorough bath, scrub her well, and wear her a befitting garment, and her magic will no longer be effective." Munu was a shy girl, and no one had ever seen her laps and even took a glimpse of her curves and edges. That was how Chisha went back to school and told her other friends, spreading the rumor that Munu was actually using charms. The condition that she was not going to be taking her bath was the magic. Anyone who whiffed at her stinky body odor lost her luck to them. They said she applied some kind of stinking black magic powder in her skin, but no one knew that the secret from her skin was her home remedy against her infection. That was how the other schoolgirls plotted to strip her naked during the school feast and scrub her to destroy her magic. Chisha and her friends were up to such a vicious mischief, and Munu never knew her dirty looks were jeopardizing them. They were planning to scrub her up like a mad gypsy. Chisha's friends were planning to ridicule Munu by bathing and dressing her up half naked. They wanted to destroy her magic and then make mockery of her before the entire school ball. They had planned to invite her to a hidden corner during the feast and lure her to the swimming pool. They were going to bathe her well with medicated soap, rub her with body cream, and dress her up like a stripper. Then force her to find herself before the saloon where the feast was taking place to disgrace her before everyone. Mono didn't want to be present at the campus ball, but due to the fact that it was mandatory and obligatory, she had to be there. She never thought anyone could be bothered of her dirty looks. She had become used to being addressed as a ridiculous girl, Miss Old and dirty schoolgirl. While going to the feast, she had nothing to put on, so she borrowed her neighbor's gown. Everyone was going to dress with tight-fitting skirts, trying to look enticing and enchanting, especially for the eyes of Prince Mike, who was a special guest. He could pick interest on one of them, so they had to look absolutely amazing. He seemed not quite interested in any girl, but his best friend said that he had not seen his kind of a girl. For sure, within his heart, there was an empty space that had not perceived the right speck to make it tremble. All he needed was a little pretty face to tickle his affection. The prince went to the party as an obligation because he had already known all the girls in school and their prejudice didn't catch his attention. As a prince, he had to be there and behave responsibly and gain the respect that he deserved. He also wanted to attend the school feast for the first time and get familiar with ordinary people and peers. As for Monu, she was just participating in the school feast as an obligation. That was how Monu found herself at the school ball. When everyone had mustered in the salon, her haters lured her to the swimming pool and forcefully undressed and washed her. After that, they wore her a half-strip skirt and a blouse that exposed her breasts hanging on her lingerie. Her cleavage was like that of a virgin, a light makeup on her face, and then they pushed her in the middle of the crowd. Mono held her skirt with her hands. She felt ashamed and shy. The haters were laughing at her, but she caught the attention of one guy, Prince Mike. He got up from his seat and asked Clement, his best friend, "Who is that beautiful girl?" "Don't you know Mono, the ridiculous girl?" "What? But she was wearing an old granny's gown. But now she looks like God took 30 days to sculpt her." Mono rushed out and hurried home, swearing to avenge such an act. The prince went after her but lost sight of her in the dark. He ran back, panting to his friend, "I couldn't reach her. She vanished in the dark." She is shy of dressing like that, but she was like a blossoming flower, just out of its petals. In fact, she is my ideal girl. Mono's haters never knew that they had ignited an emotion that was like a quiet stream but running deep. Through the party, half of the girls tried to have a dance with the prince, but he turned them down. His mind was fantasizing over the beautiful Mono he saw. It was not long when Chisha and her friends found out that they had caused the prince to find his missing rib. That was when they swore Mono could never go out with the prince. The serious rivalry was gradually emerging while Mono was not aware. She had sparked the emotions of the prince, who was yearning for her. Inside those her tattered garments was an innocent beauty who caught the attention of the prince. When Chisha and her crew learned that the prince had fallen in love with Mono, they assigned one of the girls to tell the prince that Mono used black magic to pass her exams. The allegations were justified by the fact that the charm was annihilated during the school party and she was never going to take first in class again. The prince was not convinced because his love for her was unbearable. So he told the girl that if Mono didn't come first in class again, he was going to believe them and then try to forget about her. So Chisha and her friends decided to work hard not only to prove their point, but to get the attention of the prince. Mono never knew they had disgraced her before the entire school just for a common rumor. She had no friend and no one cared to alert her that the prince was in love with her and the other girls were trying to persuade him to hate her. The prince wanted to ask her, but thought she was going to renew the charm. She knew they hated her when she found out that the bully girls had formed study groups. She knew they wanted to defy her position. The fury of what conspired at the campus social feast made her determined to triple her studies. Munu read and slept, memorizing and got up early to read before doing her morning duties. She had understood the game and was wishing to receive a university scholarship, for the scholarships always came through the presidential degree. That was her hope, and she was seriously working hard to maintain her position. Everyone knew she was going to fail because she had changed her old gown, but it was still an oversized school uniform. Just because of her dirtiness, she drew the attention of everyone. Though it was hate, the only one the other girls admired got attracted by her. The very reason they were burning with rage, and so they had to prove her wrong through school results. Mono was studying and working hard, and for the first time, the entire group of the bully girls were also seriously bent on their books studying just because they wanted to impress the prince and steal him from Mono. She came from a poor background. That is why she never wanted to disappoint her single father. She was the only hope he had. It was an academic war that was going on. One day, when they were in class, a student stood right in front of the class and shouted, "I will see how those who use juju to pass their exams and be first in class will succeed this time." The class started murmuring, while the prince wondered if black magic could make someone pass his exams. He had watched Monu, and she was a very serious and devoted student. One thing about her was that she never gave the wrong answers, even if the teacher asked a question to her by surprise. Mono went to the prince's desk and said, "We were taught that history is the study of past events. What is the use of history in our present event and future?" As for me, I don't know, but if I had to respond to that, I would say, from our past mistakes, we can correct our future. Politicians use references from the past to lead the people. If you can be able to think out of the box, then it means you are a clever girl. What is the secret of your success? Mike asked. From the very first day school started learning and studying, I believe every day is an examination. Where I come from, I don't have to fail, she justified, and the prince was curious. Why can't you fail? It is because it is not easy for my father to afford paying my fees, and that is why I have a scholarship. If I fail, it means I don't know what my father goes through before paying for my other needs. That was the first day the prince spoke to Mono, and the impression he had was different from the rumors that circulated about Mono. Their entire class was against one girl. It was making her popular in the school. Her dirtiness had made her become the talk of the entire school. Actually, it instead made the prince begin to pay much attention to her gestures. What made her stink of sweat was that she trekked 2 kilometers daily on foot before reaching school. She actually had no money to buy perfume or even to apply body cream. By the weekend, she even worked for people's farms to be paid, and sometimes they squandered her money. Mono knew she had to sacrifice the present to be respected tomorrow. The prince was still curious after finding out that there was something mystical about her success but hard work. He decided also to work hard like her, to find if he could make it. The prince had always passed, but just an average score. He decided to be reading daily from the very beginning of the last term without ceasing. That was how he had 2 hours a day reading instead of spending sleepless nights when exams were at the door. It was obvious that at the eve of the 3rd term final exams, the prince was relaxing and just revising. After the exams, his father wondered why he never spent countless hours studying. "Son, are you sure you will succeed in your exams? I never see you reading or even studying." "Dad, I used to feed the hen the day I was taking it to the market, but the dirty girl taught me her magic and I want to test it. If it works, I will be proud of you. You know, as a king, you need to be educated." It was soon going to be the final results, and everyone was curious who was going to top the school that year. 2 prizes were going to be awarded to the best 2 students, 1 female and 1 male student. The school authority had decided to offer a special gift to the best students. During the final year results, everyone assembled as usual to know the awarded students. This was aimed to promote hard work and success. The principal stood up on the pulpit and addressed, "This is a year of grace because you people will be shocked the best students of the entire school years. The purpose of this award is to encourage hard work. This year, the school administration, in collaboration with the Ministry of Social Affairs, have decided to award scholarship to some of the students, especially those who are from a peasant background. This is happening for a very first time after 5 years again. I will be calling on the vice principal to announce this year's winners." He got up on the pulpit. Without wasting time, he went straight to the point. After consolidating all the school averages, we came out with the best male student. He is a revelation this year, and his name is Prince Mike. There was an uproar while the noise was still coming down. The vice principal announced the best female student is actually Munu. Everyone was shocked. They both walked up to the pulpit to receive their awards. It was great news for Munu. She was awarded a scholarship to the upper 6th class. Her haters couldn't prove her wrong again, as she stood there with a started garment with so many stitches, proud of herself. When she was asked what was her secret, she boldly said, "My struggling father is my inspiration. His sweat is a spring of hope for me. He cannot send me to school after all the stress in vain." Tears almost dropped down from the literature mistress's eyes. She was a mother and wondered if her own children could ever speak so proudly of her in such a manner. She had always been contented with what her father did for her, and despite her tattered garments, she was going to bring good news home to her father. It was a surprise for her father. When she got home and broke the news to her father, she almost shed tears of joy. She was so glad that she enrolled on the grounds, praising and thanking God. "Oh Lord, I thank you for this day. You are the great I am. You truly bless the work of our hands." Monu was short of words, seeing her father so happy. While in the palace, the king almost fell from the throne, learning that his son made him proud. He doubted it till he saw the results and even called the principal. "Mr. Principal, why didn't you tell me my son could make me so proud?" "Sir, it happened like magic to us all." When the king was reminded that Monu taught him the magic, he asked the prince to invite her to the palace. He needed to see her face, especially when he was told that she was also the best female student. It was on holidays and the prince had to search for her by finding where she lived. He didn't know where to find her, and when he made his inquiries, she had no phone number. But the king was urged and wanted to meet this magician that made him proud of his son. Monu had no friend in school, that he knew, so the prince decided to find the path to her house. He never lost hope because the zeal and vigor within him, seeing his father's joy, made him strong and willing to reach to Monu. So he followed the path she used to take, and on his way, he met an elderly lady and asked her, "Greetings, my mother. Please, I need a favor from you." "How can I help you, my son?" "I am looking for a girl's house. She is called Monu." "I don't know of such a girl," the old woman ignored till he precised. "She used to dress with an oversized school uniform gown with so many stitches." Then she nodded her head like she remembered something about her. Then she smiled. "I know her. She is a virtuous girl. Her gown is unique and everyone talks of her kindness. She once helped me on our way to school when I was carrying a goat dung to my farm, and another day when she was going back home from school. I remember she was going to a certain village. Just go to that village." "Thank you, my mother. I am so glad that you speak good words about her. God bless you. You are blessed to go in quest for her, my son." Monu's attitude and unique school frock had led the prince to her village. The second time that her tattered gown had proven that she had a mended character. Her outlook was the opposite of her inward self. The prince trekked for 2 hours before reaching her village. Before he got there, he was sweating and he wondered how she left that village to trek to school every single day. It was just normal for her to stink of sweat, and she even helped old women on her way, even carrying goat dung that could make her stink. It was all left for the prince to start scouting for her house. But how could he be searching for a house while it was said that anyone who asked the road never got missing? At that moment, he saw another woman coming from the farm and inquired, "Please, my mother, I need a favor. I will be glad if you can help me." "What can I do for you, my son?" "I am looking for Monu's house." "I'm sorry, my son, but that name tells me nothing." The woman was jaded after tedious farm work, so it made her furious and rude. But the priest didn't use his authority on her, but pleaded, "I am sorry if I bothered you. She used to wear a tattered oversized school gown with so many stitches." At that moment, the woman smiled. Then she took down the basket from her head. I hail her for her kind gestures. She is a very good girl. If it is about her, I will take you to her house. Her father is a very poor man. Her unique school uniform had made her famous. When he got there, she was wearing the same school uniform, so it wondered him. "Monu!" He embraced her with a firm hug. She felt like he was squeezing her, but he was overwhelmed to see her. It shocked her. "What are you doing here?" "I came to find you. Why are you in your uniforms?" "I have only one dress. When I wash it, I have to wear my school uniform till it gets dry. Even my undergarments are made of old pieces of clothes. My father is disabled and still struggles to send me to school. He goes to the farm on walking stick and sits on the ground to the farm. I am the only one left to help, but he still wants me to go to school. I am his only child." Monu started sobbing, expressing her plight as tears drowned her words. She expressed her solitude. "I have no friend. I am lonely and a laughingstock. Why are you here?" Tears drowned from the prince's eyes as he tried to explain. "My father wants to see you. Hope I have not done anything wrong." "Nothing. You have brought greatness to his pride and light to his heart." At that moment, Mother's mama limped on her walking stick, lingering towards them. She was shocked to find such a suave boy standing so close to his daughter, gazing through her eyes with affection. "Hope my daughter has not committed any atrocity." "No, father. I am Prince Mike. My father wants to meet her to express his gratitude." "Who is your father, my son?" "I am Prince Mike." "What?" He blurted and nodded. "What has she done that brings royalty to my place?" "She brought grace to the throne. The king wants to meet her." Monu had no choice but to follow the prince to the palace. The prince didn't want her to look like a gypsy and offers to buy her a dress, but she denied. "You cannot look like this before the king. My prince, it is my real self, but I am not comfortable to present you to the king looking tattered." "That is the mistake people make." Her statement shocked the prince. "What mistake?" "When a rich man pays a visit to the poor people, instead from the poor man to be themselves, they borrow silver linens, sparkling dishes, and prepare the most delicious, expensive meal to please the rich man. The rich man doesn't bother helping again because they seem better off without his aid. The same way when peasants go to visit the king, they try to suit his eyes. As for me, let him despise my filthy rags. Let me not try to please him while I am in penury." "Wow, you are really an intelligent, humble girl." "You are right." The prince had no choice but to bring her to the king like that. When she appeared before the king wondered why she was such a ramshackle fellow. After listening to her, the king was so pleased and commanded the guards to bring her father to the palace. She and her father were given a place to live in. The king decided to take care of her and her father as a sign of his gratitude. He wanted her good influence around his son and also to help the poor man and her child. The new school year was going to begin soon, and the entire school was going to be shocked to find the new Mono. She was dwelling with royalty and was going to be driven to school with the prince on a ride. While Chisha and her friends were bitterly waiting to disgrace her during the new school year, plotting to make her quit school and persuade the prince from liking her, Mono never knew her foes were plotting evil against her once again. Holiday was over and the new year started. While Chisha and her friends stood not far from the royal car about to drop the prince, to their amazement, he was not alone in the royal jeep. He was accompanied by a pretty lady wearing a well-fitted uniform. It ignited their jealousy, wondering who she could be, and were shocked when they found out that she was Mono, the son of Mr. Kelvin the billionaire, who just enrolled in the school for his first time, caught the sight of Mono and immediately started developing a soft spot for her. Chisha, who thought she had gotten his attention, was furious. Mono was with the prince. As if that wasn't enough, Bernard, the billionaire's son, couldn't take his eyes off of Mono. What does Mono have that I don't have? Chisha thought to herself. Her wrath was unbearable as she swore to make Mono quit. While they were in class, Bernard could not stop gazing at Mono. It was clear indication he had fallen in love with her. He was that kind of a guy who never took a no for an answer. The prince had not opened up to Mono. She loved him, but he never said anything to her. She waited for him to ask her for a date, but he instead treated her like a sister. Mono tried to make him notice her affection for him, but the prince never really opened up. The more he found her attractive, he tried to kill the feelings for her. On the other hand, Bernard was getting acquainted with Mono and making himself familiar. She was not smart enough to read his mind because his friendship made her to reduce the excess fantasy she had for the prince. Bernard was not ready to waste his time. Chisha and her friends were planning to use it and destroy her relationship with the prince because they knew how to make Bernard break her heart. They knew he was a playboy and dating the bad boy was in their plot. He was probably going to flatter her with money, then use her and dump her. That's why the girls encouraged Bernard to lure her on the bed. Chisha made friends with Bernard, who had probably slept with her because, he slept with almost every girl. She wanted to get back at Mono by helping the bad guy to sleep with her as well, to use it and discredit her before the king and his son. Chisha sent one of the girls in her crew, known as Ruth, to pretend to be Mono's friend so as to persuade her to accept Bernard's proposal. Ruth told her, "He is the son of the richest man in this town. He is handsome and loves you. Do you see the way he looks at you? Well, I am confused because I long for someone else, the prince, but he doesn't want to open up. But maybe I will probably think about it." Mono decided to open up to the prince. "My prince, Bernard is really pestering me to go out with him, but I don't like him at all. What do I do?" The prince replied, "I don't know. You are mature enough to make your choice. But my prince, will you not be bothered if I go out with another man? You know we have come a long way. If my father could see that, I am betrothed. Though I like you, but that is tradition. I cannot be with you because a wife had been chosen already for me before I was even born. I will still speak to my father, but I know he will decline." "But my prince, should I date Bernard?" Mono said. "Follow your heart. It might lead you to your destiny." The prince left without uttering another word, while Mono stood there stranded, wondering if she was going to follow her heart. Conscious or reality, it was obvious she was never going to be with the prince. She had to make hay while the sun was shining. Chisha's friend Ruth was persuading her to date Bernard. Her heart was yearning for the prince, who was betrothed to another girl. The dirty schoolgirl had become a center of attraction and was faced with a dilemma that was hard to sort. Bernard had decided to ask her out as Ruth stood behind him. Their aim was to prove to the prince that she was actually a prostitute who didn't deserve the prince's love. Bernard wanted Mono by all costs. It was like a challenge to him for a girl to turn him down. The son of a billionaire? He went to Mono in the presence of Chisha and asked, Please, just give me a chance and I will prove myself to you. Will you be my girlfriend? I sincerely love you. Just tell him yes, Ruth persuaded Munu. She stood quiet for a while and said reluctantly, okay, I will think about it. Okay? Bernard said, I will take it for years. Bernard insisted, but she was not ready for any relationship. It was not long when the guy tried to sleep with her and she turned him down. I am not sure I have accepted to date you and you already want to sleep with me. I cannot do that, Mono said. So you are refusing me because of the prince? Don't you know he is engaged? He is deceiving you. He has been sleeping with you, right? I want you to be my girl. He keeps his virgin wife as tradition demands and have fun with you. Your imaginations are vague. He is not a gentleman. No problem. He sleeps with the woman I want and preserves his own. I am going to break his heart too, Bernard said to Munu. Munu never knew what Bernard was plotting within his heart. She didn't know why he was threatening to break the heart of the prince. Well, she later asked the prince why he was betrothed to another girl. And the prince told her that, according to tradition, she was a virgin who was going to be his wife, prepared from her teenage age, and he couldn't go against the tradition of the land, except if she was defiled by another man. She was going to marry the prince, whether she liked it or not. Even if the prince also liked it or not, it was just a tradition that they were supposed to follow. Munu was disappointed but didn't blame the prince because his father the king had given her and her father a better life. But Bernard was up to no good. No one could read the malice in his heart. He was surely plotting something evil. Bernard, the son of the billionaire, went against the norms of the land and secretly dated the prince's betrothed future wife, who was named Alice. He was avenging the fact that Munu denied him and even reminded the prince that the royal blood was mature to make her choice. Her relationship with the prince got soured because the prince learned that Bernard had actually slept with her. Bernard finally convinced Alice, the prince's betrothed wife, to sleep with him. The prince was disappointed with Alice, who lost her self-esteem. Alice claimed that she was in love with Bernard and was fed up with the traditional protocol that had made her a puppet. Bernard had promised to take her around the world for a secret adventure with her. The two matured lovers claimed they loved each other. Bernard was doing this to get back at the prince. Their controversy went viral as the billionaire's son boasted of snatching the fiancée of the prince. The prince confronted his father, the king, who promised to bring back his runaway bride, who had followed her heart and went away with the rich, handsome charmer. She liked flashy things and wanted to be happy. It was her first love because she was made to believe that she was born to marry a prince she never loved, and her attitude changed when she fell in love with Bernard. The prince, still hoping she was going to come back, finally waited in vain, till the king had no choice but accepted for the very first time that Alice had defiled the tradition set up that had existed for centuries. The prince was stranded and finally found consolation in the arms of the woman he cared for. Munu was the only one he had a soft spot for and decided to follow his heart. But he was still afraid that his father could deny her peasant background. When he went to him and said, "Father, I found the woman I love so much and want to marry." "Who is she?" the king asked. "Well, she is Munu, the girl who taught me the magic of success." "Then bring her home, my son," the king said. Prince Mike had to use his father as an excuse that the king wanted to meet Munu and decided to open up to her. "My dear Munu," the prince said, "my father wants both of us to come before him." "What for?" Munu was surprised and thought he was toiling with her feelings, but the prince went straight to the point. "Okay, let me open up. The truth is that I had loved you from the very beginning I came searching for you, but the tradition got me stuck up with Alice. But now that she just rubbed her dignity on the mud, my father wants to see the both of us. I have been looking for a day like this, and what precisely is your point?" Munu was curious and he tried to clarify. I love you so much, Munu. This feeling is killing me slowly. Please, Munu, will you be my princess? I don't need to be your princess. Even if you are a hunter or a commoner, it won't change my affection for you. I will still be glad to be your wife, Munu happily said. In fact, I feel like I can jump and touch the stars on the sky. Please, I will take you to my father. Will you follow me? The prince excitedly said. You know it is a favor for the king to invite me to the palace again. I will be glad to be your companion, my prince. They were worried if the king was going to accept for her to marry the prince. No one knew what was in the king's mind. He was a man of few words, but his utterances were unchangeable. He never went back on his words, and his decisions were final. He was never hasty making his decisions. That is why, when he was about to make a statement, the whole palace trembled. So, the two destined lovers were planning to go meet the king to find out what was their fate. Was he going to stop their relationship or bless them? For no one could oppose him, even his own son. When they met the king, he was glad to bless them as husband and wife. He even told Munu, "You will make a good queen, my daughter. You have the qualities of a mother who can lead." For the first time in the kingdom, tradition had failed and love had conquered. Munu became the princess when she married the prince, and with no doubt, she was a future queen. When the king died some years later, Prince Mike and his wife became the reigning rulers of the kingdom. During their reign, the royal family was blessed. Well, Chisha and her crew ended up disappointed and were the only ones who spoke against the royal family. Chisha couldn't withstand being ordered by Munu and exiled herself from the kingdom. Chisha tried by all means to try and destroy the relationship between the prince and Munu, but she failed. At some point in life, she regretted her actions, but she couldn't get to a point of asking for forgiveness for what she did to Munu. That is why she made the decision to make sure that she was far away from the palace, away from Munu, because her hate towards her kept on increasing and she couldn't bear the thought of seeing Munu happy. Therefore, she decided to flee and never to return in the kingdom. That is how, after that, nobody in the kingdom ever heard of her. Nobody even knew where she flew to, but what they knew is that she was no more. The palace was happy, every person was happy, and Munu was really happy. Despite the hardships that she had gone through, she was still able to find happiness in the prince. But as it is said, the rejected cornerstone became the selected one. Once more, they left a legacy of good leadership, for their children were brought up in a God-fearing manner, and they were the first royal couples in that land that blessed their wedding before the altar of God. The difference was that the king had to carry his throne to the church, though some people were asking the Catholic priest why he honored him in such a manner. And the priest told them, "We are born prophets, priests, and kings, and our leaders are ordained by God. He is not here because he is above God. He is just honoring God with his throne. It shows how much he honors God." No one had another opinion, even those who had grumbled within their hearts. Their leadership showed an example of people who could lead people, not those who commanded. Their hearts was full of empathy and they were able to listen to the people's worries and people's concerns. They never took advantage of the fact that they were royals, but then again, they always stood for what was right and they always tried to make sure that they were equal towards each and every person that came into contact with them. That is why their rulership and leadership lasted for ages until old age. Munu and Mike lived happily ever after, and they had as many children as they could. And they also became very devoted parents because they wanted to teach their children the value of life and not taking anything for granted. That is why they were always there for the children. This is the end of the story. I hope you really enjoyed, and if you did actually enjoy the story, please tell me the lessons that you learned from the story. Personally, I think the biggest lesson that I have learned from this story is that what's yours is yours. No one will take away what's actually ordained for you by God. You know, God is so faithful and he never lets his people down. Whatever situation you might be going through, just know that you will have a breakthrough at some point in time. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but definitely it will surely come. So thank you very much for watching, and please, if you enjoyed the story, say something in the comment section. Please subscribe to the channel. It really helps out the channel a lot. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.